Hello, totally inspired community. My name is Thandazile Mthethwa. I am a child of God. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm also a psychologist and a pastor. It's such an honor for me to be a guest in this program today. Before we proceed, please take care of the following. We would appreciate you would subscribe, like, share, and even comment on what we are going to be talking about today. I have been asked to speak on a topic that is very close to my heart, which is the effects of childhood trauma on adult relationships. Now, when we're speaking about childhood trauma, I would like first to explain what trauma is. When we're talking about trauma, we're talking about those events that are very stressful in our lives, that threaten the well-being of a human being. So it could be threatening to the safety, physical safety, emotional safety, or just social safety of a person. So if we're speaking then about childhood trauma, it is those events that were threatening to this person as a child. They threatened their safety, they threatened their well-being, and they threatened who they are, and as a result, causing a severe impact in their lives. We may look at things that happen as once-off events, or it could be events that happen over a prolonged time. And both of these have an effect on the child and even as an adult, and the effects are different. So here we're looking at, for example, once off, the divorce of their parents. We're looking at the death of a parent, maybe the death of a sibling as well. We're looking at things like an armed robbery at home, rape of a child. That's a once-off event. But also, there's also things like a prolonged thing like domestic violence that is carrying on and on and on at home, whether it's just the parents that are abusive to each other or the abuse is directed at the child. So we're looking at physical abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse. All of these things are traumatic to a child. Also neglect, sometimes neglect is also an act of trauma or that can induce trauma to a child. How trauma works is such that, one, it injures the person. So if it's not dealt with, if the person, that wound that was caused in childhood is not healed, then the person acts continuously in a way that tries to protect that wound. One, so that it doesn't ever happen again, or that people that they are interacting with do not hurt this part of them that is injured. Secondly, trauma introduces a certain kind of a veil through which then people see life. So trauma changes the way that we see ourselves, or the way that they see the world outside, the way that their values are, the way that they carry themselves in public or even in private. And remember, during childhood, these are the formative years. These are the years wherein the child is starting to form who they are, is starting to form and understand how the world works and how to interact with others. But immediately when there's trauma, it puts then a veil to say you will look at the world through this lens going forward, because those were the formative years and they are affected now by the lens of trauma. Let me make an example to bring this home. If a child was abandoned, for example, that's a traumatic experience. It gives them a lens of viewing themselves that say, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy of love, because during the formative years, the trauma informed them to say, you are not loved, you are not worthy of love. You may have people that behave in extreme ways. For example, I made an example of abandonment. I think I would like to stick with this one so that there's a thread to it. If a person maybe was abandoned in childhood, you may find that they are overly clingy. They are very overly dependent because they are afraid to be left alone. They are seeing themselves or fearing that others will leave them. They love these people and they have a relationship with them, but there's that deep-seated fear and unconscious fear to say, I may lose this person at any time. And so when a person is going away, they're always fearing, are they going to come back? And so the incessant calling, to find out, where are you? What's going on with you? On the other extreme end is total independence, because the person knows what it feels like to be abandoned, and they swear somewhere in their unconscious to say, you will never abandon me again. Nobody will ever leave me again. And so I'm fine without people. I don't need to attach to people. And so they struggle with even building healthy relationships because they fear that should I attach to someone, they are going to leave me. So it's better not to attach to begin with. So things like those, as well as things like anger, because remember, anger is a form of protection of that woundedness. So you may find that a person is just angry, the anger that is not context appropriate. A minor thing happens and the person explodes. You may want to find out what is going on that this person just explodes like that, because nobody is born with that kind of anger. So most of the time, the anger, you may find that it's just a way of protecting that part of themselves that is wounded. But let's say even it's a marriage or an intimate relationship where a person doesn't want intimacy because it reminds them of the sexual trauma that they experienced, and so any touch of the body reminds them of that experience. So it's a myriad of symptoms that you may see depending on what their trauma was and what was their response to trauma. Avoidance behavior. You may find that the person avoids certain places, avoids certain topics, even avoids certain movies. That is because of the anxiety that is accompanying such contexts, as well as the extreme behaviors, extreme anger, extreme withdrawal, extreme clinginess, extreme independence that is unexplainable, especially when you are in a healthy relationship. Some of the people, you may find that they are timid because they fear being rejected. They fear that should they stand up for themselves, someone may be violent towards them, because that's the nature of relationship they grew up with, that if they stand up for themselves, they will be encountered with violence, they will be shut down in a violent way. So some of these are then the signs that you can look out for. In extreme cases as well, you may find that people have nightmares, unexplained nightmares, especially if you have been in a relationship with them, whether it's a friendship or any kind of relationship, and they wake up and they are scared and all of that, and there is nothing that that could be triggering this. It could be that it's coming way back from their childhood. Even the eating patterns as well. This is the way that we have found that it's a common way of dealing with some of the traumatic experiences. Some people eat quite a lot at certain times because they are avoiding to deal with the pain that was caused by that trauma. So some of these things you may want to explore and just ask your friend or your partner or whoever you are in a relationship with what is going on. But may I just caution as well, when you do ask, you must know that whatever they say might be difficult for you to handle. And so if you do ask, be ready. Do not ask if you know that you will not be able to handle what they will tell you, because it will be re-traumatizing to them. But also they may trigger your own trauma as well, because some of the times most of us have gone through some trauma. I would say refer them for help, for psychotherapy. There's a number of ways in which psychologists work. They will tailor-make a therapy that is right for that person, for the kind of trauma they went through, as well as for the kind of person that this person is. Because here in psychotherapy, it's not a one-size fits all. Seek spiritual help because trauma is very spiritual as well. It lives with us, wounds that can actually transfer to generations if it's not dealt with, if it's not broken properly. So seek spiritual help from a trusted pastor or your local church's counselor and ask them to assist with that. However, sometimes some of the trauma is very deep-seated that it would need a professional to deal with. Most of the churches that I know would actually know if that is the case and would be able to refer to say you need to go to a psychologist or a trained counselor for this part as well. And you may then use the support of your family members as well as your friends. So there is actually hope in as much as there are severe effects of childhood trauma that we may see in other settings where, for example, a person may end up, the whole personality changes. That is then on the part of the more serious side of things. But from the day-to-day living, childhood trauma is able to be dealt with and to be healed, and a person is able to live after that and be held. Well, yes and no. It all depends, once again, on the context. Remember, the wounding of the traumatized person will be the determinant of what is wise for them to do. In confronting the source of the trauma, one may find closure. But also in confronting the source of the trauma, one may find a re-traumatizing experience. And so, if a person wants to do this, I would advise that they do so with a full support of someone who understands how to handle this person or how to handle the situation should they find this re-traumatizing. Let's say, for example, if you want to visit a place where you were raped, or visit that person that raped you as a child. That person may be remorseful and be sorry about what they did, but they could also feel like, why are you even bringing this up? You have been quiet all these years, leave me alone. Now you want to spoil my life and make a big hoo-ha out of something that you were hoping would be a closure for you, and it becomes another pain for you. So it's very important to be on a stable ground emotionally if you decide to confront that. Be on a stable emotional ground, as well as have a fallback plan or someone that will support you and be able to handle the situation with you should things not work out the way that you had hoped. So in summary, here are 3 major things I would like to leave with you. 1, childhood trauma refers to those experiences or events that wound a child such that it's carried over right into adulthood and affects their relationships. And secondly, you may see these things that the person may have experienced trauma by the way that they act. It could be in avoidance behavior, it could be in extreme behaviors like inappropriate anger, inappropriate timidity, and things like those. And finally, there are ways that childhood trauma can be dealt with, such as psychotherapy, consulting with your pastor, and just talking to your friends and supportive loved ones. I hope this video was very helpful to you, and if you know someone that would be helped by watching it, please do share it, and don't forget to subscribe and hit a like button and comment in the comment section below. And until next time, keep inspiring.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until